Okay, I'm very much aware. This is Corella Ficklin, welcome.com, WYLCOME.com. I'm very aware that the next two tenses that I'm going to talk about, many people don't ever use. These are tenses that are very abstract and they're used in very particular situations. They're not used a lot, either in English or in Spanish, but that doesn't mean they're not used at all. Let me share. Okay, so I'm very aware of that. Okay, so maybe if I'm talking to if an English speaker is listening to this video, he's going to say, what the heck is the future perfect? The future perfect is when you talk about the future as if it were the past. I will have talked to my mother by the time you get back. That's a jump in time. Many of us never use the tense because we never think like that. We don't think of the future being the past or consciously do so. So I'm aware of it. So once again, let me just teach the structure, and later on down the line, I will explain how to use the future perfect tense and the conditional perfect tense. Not just to non-native speakers, maybe even to native speakers. It's a different way of thinking. So the future perfect tense in English, relatively simple. You have I, you, we, they, he, she, it, which by now you know the subject of the sentence, plus the future tense of the verb to have. So what's the future tense of the verb to have? Will have. I will have, you will have, we will have, they will have, he will have, she will have, it will have. It doesn't change. It only changes in the present indicative. Plus the past participle. It's always the past participle of the verb. After the verb, auxiliary verb to have, the main verb is always in its past participle form. And what's the past participle form? It's the same form as the past tense form. So I will have talked. I will have walked. I will have lived. I will have opened. It's the simple form of the verb. That's the verb without the to, plus the ed. That's it in English. It doesn't matter what the ending of the verb is because we have no endings in English. Okay. Now in Spanish, as you well know by now, you have to first be aware, is it the AR verb? Is it the ER verb? Is it the IR verb? If it's the AR verb, the thing that changes is the verb haber. No, it's the ending, the participle ending. That's it. So the verb haber, remember the verb haber means in Spanish, the auxiliary verb to have. So H-A-B-E-R. So first we have to work with the simple form of the verb haber, the conjugated in its yo form, in its to form, in its él, ella, usted, nosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes forms. So the first thing we have to do is get rid of the ER, haber, get rid of the ER, remove that. Now we can work with it. So here are the endings for the future. Because where in English you have the auxiliary verb will to denote the future. In Spanish, you don't do it like that. It's an inflection, it's at the end. So when you want to talk about the future in Spanish, you have the verb haber, get rid of the ER, and you have abre, it's the R-E, abras, it's the R-A-S, abra, it's the R-A, abremos, it's the R-E-M-O-S, and abran, it's the R-A-N. Okay. So always remember, The infinitive form of the verb is haber, H-A-B-E-R. You want to work with that verb, get rid of that E-R. Now you just have H-A-B. Now you add inflections or endings or suffixes. So in Spanish, for the verb haber, it's R-A, R-A-S-A, R-A, R-A-M-O-S-A, R-A-N-A. You see those accents? They're very important. For now, just memorize them. Later on, I'll explain to you how to use accents in Spanish, but they're very important. Do not think, I don't need to put it. You do. Now, for the main verb, and the main verb in this instance is the verb hablar. Once again, get rid of that AR and then connect A-D-O, hablado. Habré hablado. I will have talked. Habrás hablado. You will have talked. Habremos hablado. We will have talked. Habrán hablado. They will have talked. I might as well do the él, ella, usted, habrá hablado. He, she, and the formal you will have talked. Okay. So first thing that you have to be concerned about, is it an AR verb, ER verb, IR verb? So you know what ending to put on the main verb. But the habré, habrás, habrá, habremos, habrán is consistent with the AR verb, the ER verb, and the IR verb. That's the auxiliary verb to have. But in Spanish, you don't have will. You don't have would. Right? You have an ending. So let's look at it. Here we go, the future perfect. You see, it's the same. Habré, habrás, habrá, habremos, habrán. And then that's the verb to have. Then you want to get the main verb. In this case, it's an ER verb. The main verb would be comer. Get rid of that, remove that ER, and then put I-D-O. Comido. Habré comido, habrás comido, habrá comido, habremos comido, habrán comido. I will. Now in Spanish, the verb habrá, the verb to eat is regular. In English, it's irregular. Okay, let's look at the IR. Same thing, exact same thing. Habré, habrás, habrá, habramos, habremos, excuse me, habrán. Then the verb vivir, which is the main verb, get rid of that IR, vivido, vivido. Habré vivido, habrás vivido, habrá vivido, habremos vivido, habrán vivido. And that's the future perfect, which a lot of people have never used or have used so rarely that when they use it, they're not even aware. Let's get in here, the conditional perfect tense. Once again, super rare, super limited reason. Well, I don't know if the reason is limited, but unless you think in a particular way, you're talking about, I know I'm not supposed to be explaining, but I just have to say this. You're talking about an action that happened, but you talk about it as if it hadn't happened. As if it hadn't happened. Okay. Because that's the conditional. That's the conditional. The video will go on and on and on and on. Okay, so it's in English. This is the conditional perfect. Well, we already know if you see the word perfect, you're going to have the verb to have. And in what tense you're going to have it in its conditional, because the conditional perfect, this tells you it's the conditional of the verb to have. Okay, so what's the conditional of the verb to have? Would. Would. So it's I, you, we, they, he, she, it, plus the conditional of the verb to have. Let me put the conditional, not the condition of the verb to have, the conditional of the conditional tense, condition tense of the verb to have plus the past participle. And what's that? The conditional of the verb to have is would plus the past participle. Lid, I, conditional would, the verb to have. I would have given you the money. I would have given is irregular. So many verbs in English are irregular. I would have talked to my mother, blah, 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 blah. I would even venture to say we use this conditional perfect more than we use the future perfect, at least consciously. Okay, so it's the conditional of the verb to have. These are very abstract tenses, but they're used. There's nothing to say that can't be used, and there's nothing to say that if it's a particular way of thinking, you can't start thinking like that. Spanish, condicional perfecto. So we're talking about the conditional of the verb haber, H-A-B-E-R, and the conditional is we get rid of the E-R, and then we add the ending R-I-A. R-I-A-S, R-I-A, R-I-A-M-O-S. Look at the accents. Oh, this is spelled wrong. Thank goodness. Brian. There we go. So it's H-A-B-R-I-A-N. And then the ado being for the AR verb, the main, which is the main verb. Habría caminado, habrías hablado, habría caminado, habríamos hablado, habrían caminado, habrían hablado, habrían tocado, complicado. Okay, so we're talking about the conditional perfect of the AR verb. Let me see if I had the same mistake here. Yep. My mind, it must have been in another word. There we go. So we're talking about the ER verb. So we're talking about habría, habrías, habría, habríamos, habrían, but the main verb must end in ER. Habría comido. I would have eaten. Now remember, that's the verb to eat in Spanish, which is regular. In English, it's irregular. Habrías comido. A lot of verbs in ER are irregular. That's why I'm having trouble thinking of an ER verb. A lot of verbs in ER. I remember one time I saw a list. The list for the regular verbs in ER was like this. The list, there's not that many verbs in ER in Spanish anyway. And the list for the irregular verbs was like this. Right? So every time I'm thinking of a verb, I say, no, that's irregular. No, that's irregular. No, that's irregular. That's why I just put the verb comido, comer. So it's habría comido, habrías comido, habría comido, habríamos comido, habrían comido. Do not forget those accents. Those accents are important. Accents in Spanish is not exotic. It's not something that's pretty. It is a part of the grammar. It is important. It helps the speaker to pronounce the word or how to pronounce the word. Then we're talking about the IR verb. Once again, that habría, habrías, habría, habríamos, and once again, the mistake I made, which I did not see. Okay, which is good. So you see me self-correcting, which is good, not perfect. Even though you can look at something a million times, sometimes you can't see your errors a million times. Okay, that's why you should get someone to proofread your stuff. That's why you should get someone to proofread. I did, but apparently they could not see the error either. But that's neither here nor there. When you're in different situations, you see it differently. Different eyes see it differently, and you're able to correct yourself. So let's see the IR verb. Habría vivido, habrías vivido, habría vivido, habríamos vivido, habrían vivido. And that would be, I would have lived. And then of course you have to add more of the sentence, another part of the clause, another clause, which would be a independent clause. It gets complicated. Okay, so we've talked about the present perfect, the present tense of the verb to have, plus the past participle. The past perfect, the past tense of the verb to have, plus the past participle. The future perfect, the future tense of the verb to have, plus the past participle. And the conditional perfect, which is the conditional of the verb to have, plus the past participle. Okay, and in English, you don't have to worry about ER, IR, whatever. In Spanish, you do. So you always have to be taking consideration. Are you talking about an AR verb, an ER verb, or IR verb? Obviously, you have to take into consideration, is the verb regular or irregular? And where in English, you have the verb to have. In Spanish, you have the verb haber, Haber. To work with that, where in English you take off the to, and there that's a simple form of the verb. In Spanish you take off the er, and then you have hab. Now you can work with it. You can make it present indicative. You can make it past. You can make it future. You can make it you can make it conditional. You can work with it. But first you have to take off the ER. And the inflections in Spanish, the endings are what gives you the future, is what gives you the conditional, abre, right? That RE with the accent over the E, that tells you it's future, where you have abría, HABRIA, that RIA, accent over the I, tells you it's conditional. So you can see in English, it has its difficulties, but you don't have to memorize so much. But in Spanish, you have to memorize each person, almost each person, the yo, the tú, the el, the yo, the tú, the nosotros, their own endings, right? The el, ella, usted, another set of endings. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, another set of endings. But after a while, you get used to it because you'll begin to see that they're connected. And sometimes adding the accent makes it 1/10 or one set of words, and then not adding the accent makes it something different. That's why accents are very, very, very important. Okay, this has run a little bit long, so let me say, I'm Coralla Ficklin McLean. Welcome, WYLCONE. Thank you for coming to my platforms. Thank you for coming to my webpage. Thank you for coming to my videos. Please subscribe and share. Let me stop sharing here. Although I asked you to share, let me stop sharing. And let me once again thank you. Look at, see that little piece of hair just sticking out there? Let me thank you. And I wish you a good day. Bye.